Thomas shut his eyes. I must stop. Help! Help! A freight train came rushing through much too fast. The engine was James. James's driver and fireman were feeling him all over to see if he was hurt. Then, with a sudden jerk, it all came easier. But there was trouble ahead. Cinders and ashes, said Thomas. He was too tired now to care where he went. I want to stop! I want to stop! I have stopped! But he couldn't stop himself and slithered into a ditch. Whoosh! He hissed. Get me out! Get me out! Come back! Yelled his driver. Fire and smoke, said Thomas. You remember when she was ill in bed and... Yes, of course, interrupted Edward. You told us how she waved her red dressing gown out of her window to warn you about a landslide ahead. Those buffers don't look very safe to me. The last load poured down. Help! Help! Cried Thomas. Get me out! Percy was worried, but he couldn't help laughing. Thomas's smart blue paint was covered in coal dust from smokebox to bunker. The buffers didn't stop him either. Oh! Wailed Percy. Help! The buffers were broken, and Percy was wheel-deep in coal. As Edward clanked by, they broke through the fence and ran across the line. A coupling was broken, and some cars were left behind. That's enough! Percy was sunk. The cars jerked forward. Oh! They screamed. We can't! We won't! Some of their brakes snapped and the gear jammed in the sleepers. Spite doggy, would you? Take that! Oh! Oh! Go steady! The van's breaking! The van was in pieces. Horrors, cried Thomas, and shut his eyes. The house rocked, broken glass tinkled, plaster was everywhere. Daisy lurched backwards. She was so cross that she blew a fuse. Told you, she said. Look out! The brake van was in smithereens. Suddenly, Edward's wheels slipped fiercely, and with a shrieking crack, something broke. The crew inspected the damage. Repairs took some time. Percy broke the cart to smithereens. There was worse to come. Thomas was snowed under, but the porters didn't hear him either. Percy gave them such a fright that boxes and bags burst everywhere. Oh, groaned Percy. More trouble lay ahead. Oh, hissed Percy, the water is sloshing my fire. But the wind had other ideas. It curled round his boiler, crept under his loose dome, and lifted it off and away into the valley below. But it was too late. And Diesel started to move. He went bump straight into Percy. Diesel bumped the cars so hard that the loads went everywhere. He banged the cars hard into the buffers, but the buffers weren't secure. The silly cars were sunk. Bah, said Gordon, and angrily let off steam. They pushed Thomas over the switches. "Slow down," called Thomas's driver and applied the brakes. Poor Thomas stood dazed and surprised in a muddy pond as a toad eyed him suspiciously. "Bust my buffers," muttered Thomas. "The day started so well, too." The rails were now like a tightrope across the thundering water. The driver braked hard. Toby stopped, still on the rails, but with his wheels treading the tightrope over the abyss. "Mind your backs," he shouted. Then there was trouble. But it was too late. The twins left the quarry just in time. But it was too late. The driver and fireman had jumped clear, but squashed fruit squirted all over Percy.
Whenever they did anything the Duke thought wrong, he would say, "That would never suit his grace," and often came off the rails. Quite by accident. But then suddenly, "Let's get back at him!" They surged into Sir Handel and pushed him off the rails. His springs were weak, and the rail joints jarred his wheels. At last, a spring gave way. "I feel all crooked," cried Skarloey. Sir Handel was about to cause a great deal of trouble. "Told you," said Sir Handel, but it was no use. "Hurrah! Hurrah!" roared the cars. Peter Sam shut his eyes. But it was too late. "Sleepers and ballast, I'm off." "There's something hanging from the roof," shouted his driver. Peter Sam came out of the tunnel a different-looking engine. Then there was trouble. But they weren't. "I've got a cramp," he groaned. He drank 3 buckets of water and was just about to drink another when Henry let off steam. Cried the elephant. Water went all over Henry. Poor Henry. "I'm coming apart." And he did. "Just like this," he boasted. The painter couldn't see. Both he and the paint pot fell all over Henry. Then there was trouble. As Percy was lining them up, they burst through some buffers. "Oh no!" cried Percy. "Now there'll be trouble." And there was. Percy's driver quickly stopped the train.
Cranky banged his load down on the quayside. Poor Percy. But Cranky left the loads beside the freight cars. Not in them. It was out of control and running aground, straight into the sheds. Ah! Don't move! You're still attached to Cranky! But it was too late. They're bringing in the third lorry on a barge. What happened to that one? James asked. Stupid lorry was reversing and fell straight into the sea, said the tow truck man. He braked hard, but it was too late. But not Sir Topham Hatt. Oil splashed everywhere. Worse was to follow. Help! Cried George. Something snapped. He veered out of control, and Sir Topham Hatt landed in a muddy ditch close to where Thomas was taking on water. Bother! Bother! Henry had an accident. They were just in time. She was taking a bath, and the water was slopping all over the place. Oh! He saw a freight car on the line ahead. Get out of my way! But the freight car wouldn't move until Gordon forced it. Then there was trouble again. Disaster struck. Help! Called Toby. Stop! Yelled Henry. Henry braked hard, but the freight cars hit some of the rubble and plunged into the ravine. The only thing you'll have left to share is trouble. Thomas was rudely interrupted. His driver reduced steam and braked hard. But it was too late. Disaster lay ahead. The family were enjoying themselves so much that they forgot to watch where they were going. Oh, botheration, said Sir Topham Hatt. We're stuck. A crossing lay ahead and the gates were closed. Toad couldn't stop. Worse still, they diverted him onto old sidings, straight into a muddy pool. Suddenly, the engine lost control and plunged over the side into the swamps below. freight cars plunged into the ravine. Skarloey and his driver heard the noise and looked up. "Avalanche!" they cried. Then it happened. Oh no. But it was too late. He went off the rails at Bulgy's bridge and dropped the pipes onto the tracks instead of the trucks. "My net is too heavy," wailed Harold. "Harold is in trouble," Percy cried. "We must try to help him." He pulled so hard, he broke his coupling rods. He wasn't going anywhere, out of sight, when one rock fell, then another, and another. But it was too late. "Oh no!" he cried. Suddenly his snowplow hit the rock, hit the water tower. "Cinders and ashes!" exclaimed Thomas. "Look out!" Duck shouted, but it was too late. But the troublesome trucks delight in mischief, and their mischief causes trouble, as poor Henry found out. Help! Building at the old mine sank into the ground. He was so scared, he lurched forward and rammed the freight car. "Naughty gnomes!" cried Percy. Henry arrived to pick up coal. He bumped into the coal cars, and the coal cars bumped into Percy. Percy was pushed onto the loading ramp. "Help!" cried Percy. Percy was hoisted up, tipped over, and brought back down again. "We're out of hot air!" shouted a voice. "Ah!" cried James. "What's happening?" Crash, bang, wallop went the balloon and landed right on top of James. "Oh, help!" Gordon cried as he slid off the tracks and into a field. Percy found himself under the chute, and coal dust flew everywhere. "Oh no!" coughed Percy. "I'm filthy." "Hello, Percy!" he called. And he took off blowing cinders and ashes everywhere. When he approached the chocolate factory, his driver applied the brakes. But Percy's wheels just skidded on the oily rails. "Oh no!" hooted Percy. Said Bill. Just be happy you're in good working order, said Mavis. It's not fair, Bill huffed, and he wheeshed soot all over Mavis. Bill, gasped Mavis. A mouse! Alicia Body screamed. And she screamed, and she screamed, and she screamed. She screamed so loud and so long that windows broke all over town. Definitely a coloratura. It suddenly snapped. Duncan plummeted down the incline. Help! He yelled. A low-hanging branch knocked his whistle off, and he blew so hard, his whistle shot off like a mighty rocket and landed out of sight.
His driver jumped to safety as the rocks began to fall. But Fergus was covered in rocks right up to his funnel. Until it was too late. He dangled dangerously above the water. Suddenly, the crane swung the boiler and knocked Edward right off the track. He tried to blow hard to clean it out, but instead blew mud all over Gordon. Silly! The tall funnel of the old barge crashed through a pipe. James was sure he'd get covered in sludge. But he didn't. My whistle is clogged again. Watch out, James! Dust went everywhere, but it was too late. Squashed fruit flew everywhere. But he was so busy watching the windmill's sails that he forgot to look where he was going. That stormy night, the old windmill was struck by lightning. Suddenly, there was a loud crash. The brake van had been hit by a landslide and come off the rails. The ships at sea depend upon the lighthouse to keep them safely off the rocks. But now there was trouble.
Is there a problem, Mr. Oliver?
Yeah, there is!
That could have been a little smoother.
Some faulty points sent his freight cars one way and Thomas onto the old pier rail. Whoa! The troublesome trucks were delighted.
He's falling in the water!
Duncan's driver applied the brakes, but it was too late. The statue flew through the air and landed in the lake. Later, Diesel was being careless.
Not like that, snapped Fergus. Do it right.
Don't interfere, sneered Diesel. And it came down, right in front of Skarloey. As Gordon steamed across the bridge, it came loose and wrapped around his firebox. But it wasn't fast enough. The apples were all smashed, snowdrift. But the cracks in the supports were getting larger. A beam snapped. Timber pieces splashed into the water below. Help! Whistled Duncan. I'm going to fall!
Don't use the old wooden bridge,
said Rusty.
It's dangerous.
Whoa! Thomas bumped straight into Percy and the bunting flew up into the air. and blew as loud as he could. Thomas was cross. He took another big puff and blew. Bertie skidded all over the road. "Percy!" he cried crossly. Percy took the biggest puff of all and blew. Trevor was so surprised his trailer bumped into a pile of logs. "Oh no!" cried Percy. "Oh no!" Luckily, no one was hurt. First, he shunted Thomas under the hopper. "Cinders and ashes," spluttered Thomas. But he shunted the dining car so hard everything flew into the air. There were more complaints than ever, but the troublesome trucks were naughtier than ever. They rocked and rolled and crashed and bashed. James's face was soon covered in soot. James had to put his brakes on with a jolt. Coal tumbled out of the troublesome trucks, landing on James. James was cross and biffed the troublesome trucks as hard as he could. More coal flew out. Now James didn't want to be seen. He was as dirty as he had ever been. Thomas went too fast and gave the coaches a mighty biff. The coaches rolled along the line and bumped into James. And soon it was. Troublesome trucks hurtled into a siding. They biffed and bashed the bumpers. Percy rounded the bend. The pipe slipped and fell all over the track, but Percy puffed on. The brake van passed Gordon, but the tar wagons didn't. Thomas pulled to a slow, sad stop by a signal box. Thomas felt very cold and twice as miserable. This made Emily very cross, and she biffed them very hard. "Oh no!" they cried, and they splashed into the duck pond. Emily was covered in a flowery mess. There was trouble. Rocks fell and blocked the line. And James ground to a halt. He bumped them very hard. "No, no, no! You need to puff smoothly." Everyone watched as he puffed into a big pile of snow. "Yuck!" coughed Gordon. A big cloud of stone dust whooshed down and landed right on top of Thomas. Suddenly, he bumped into a freight car. The freight car rolled into a lever, and then there was a whooshing sound. "Oh no!" James puffed. Coal poured out everywhere. It poured onto the tracks and all over Gordon, James, and Emily. Just then, Gordon blew to clean his funnel. Coal dust shot into the air. It covered Sir Topham Hatt and the railway inspector. There was trouble. With a horrible creak and a terrible crack, Thomas's traction rods broke. Thomas stopped with a jolt. The eggs started to bounce in their boxes. Then Thomas changed lines. It caused a big bump. The eggs were breaking, bumping, and some of the fish were shaken loose. "Yuck!" Thomas gasped. "I wish I'd taken fewer freight cars." But the freight cars of fish were too heavy. "Oops," said Thomas. Trees were blown down. A water tower fell over. And the roof blew right off Farmer McColl's barn. bust my buffers, cried Emily. Emily was scared. She didn't notice the huge white tarp. It fell, covering her from funnel to footplate. The ghost! It's got me! He heaved, he huffed, and he puffed, and he heaved so hard. The coupling broke. Thomas shot forward. Cocoa powder flew everywhere. And then there was trouble. Thomas hit the telegraph pole. And they all came off the tracks. They spilt their drinks and their donuts went flying. But it was too late. Mighty pushed Mac as hard as he could. And the coach crashed into the rocks. First, one rock fell. Then another rock. Soon, lots of rocks came tumbling down. Until it was too late! Luckily, no one was hurt. But Gordon came off the rails and he was covered in gooey red jelly. Oh! But Skarloey was too excited to be careful. Neville saw a barrier on the track. He slammed on his brakes. But it was too late. I didn't see that a big rock had fallen on the line. It was on the flatbed in front of him. It rolled onto the track. Emily was shocked. Then there was another loud crash. Then there was trouble. Then they rolled too far again. Thomas and his freight cars were dirtier than ever. Thomas applied his brakes, but he stopped too quickly. The trucks bumped into the back of Thomas, and the coal spilled all over the tracks. Snapped. He dropped a large crate of melons. Duncan pushed his way through the barrier. He puffed straight into a roof support. And suddenly the roof collapsed behind him. All his puff, Duncan bashed the freight cars. And they crashed and smashed through the boards. Skarloey was too heavy, and the winch broke. And straight into the snowbank. And he applied his brakes as hard as he could. Whoa! Edward tried to brake as well, but it was too late. Thomas biffed the freight cars out of the way and rolled up under the chute himself. He biffed the car very hard, and the door came loose. Pistons popped, and his traction rods rattled. Inside the passenger car, the picnic hamper burst open, and the narrow gauge controller and Mrs. Percival were juddered and shuddered. But it was too late. The flatbed bumped into the air. The bell tumbled off the flatbed and rolled down the hill. Clang, clang, boing, went the bell as it fell, and he arrived just in time. The branch snapped, and the bell fell onto his flatbed. Cinders and ashes, cried Thomas. He heard the flatbed crash into the buffers, and then splash into the canal. Then there was trouble. Rheneas raced right off the track. Help! Cried Henry. Whoa! Then there was trouble. The bubbles blew into his eyes. Thomas couldn't see where he was going, and he bumped straight into the back of Toby. Thomas puffed into the sidings and biffed into the buffers. Sticky taffy splattered everywhere. Edward screeched to a stop. But the sides of the freight cars collapsed. Steel pipes toppled all over the track. Then there was trouble. Gordon hit the pipes with a loud crunch and landed with a clang. Skarloey jumped. His freight cars hit the buffers and bright white flour flew everywhere. The log hit Skarloey with a great big boof. Skarloey was dented and the bull roared. The siding hadn't been used for a long time. It was very overgrown. Thomas heard scratching and scraping sounds. When Thomas saw what had happened, he could not believe his eyes. Earth and stones tumbled down the bank and blocked Thomas's track. And he pushed forward into the landslide. Thomas was up to his buffers in mud and stones. He tried to push on, but he couldn't. He tried to back out, but he couldn't. Thomas was stuck. Suddenly, the signal turned red. James applied his brakes and screeched to a halt. But Edward couldn't stop in time. Chloe's flatbed biffed into the sidings and came off the track. He backed into a stack of roofing slate and smashed it into tiny pieces.
Ned, cried his operator, you've knocked over the slates. I didn't do it, protested Ned.
Not Max. I am, blasted Monty. I am.
Look out! Shouted Patrick. Whoa!
Uh-oh, this is bad. Look out! Cried Jack. But it was too late. Too late. Max broke the water supply pipe. Water gushed everywhere. Suddenly, Alfie was sinking into a muddy hole. Max crashed into Monty, and Monty crashed into the lightning tree. Before they knew it, they skidded off the track and into a ditch. Ned, shouted Thomas, the rubble goes in the freight cars. Wasn't watching where he was going. Look out! Cried his operator. But it was too late. The chimney rocked. The bricks crumbled. The workmen and the foreman took cover. Oliver and Thomas watched in amazement. Ouch, said Oliver. Oh! Oh! Ow! No, sighed Oliver. I think you've done enough for one day. Watch out! Cried Alfie. Oliver's giant scissor claw grabbed the top of the wall. Suddenly, the upper wall started to crumble. Hurry, kitty, kitty, Alfie cried. But it was too late. Quick as a wink, Alfie covered the cat and the kittens with his scoop. And just in time. Meow, said the cat. Stones tipped out of the freight cars. He got covered in coal dust. Oh, he got covered in quarry dust. Thomas sent Hector rolling backwards into a set of buffers. Then, a snowslide came down and blocked Henry's way. And he biffed right into his lucky trucks. But Thomas was now going too fast to stop safely. He bashed into the barrier, and the light bulb broke. Rheneas was surprised. He jumped and biffed into his flatbeds.
Thomas blew his new whistle.
Beep! Rusty jumped and he biffed his freight cars. Biffed his freight cars in surprise. Flour flew up into the air like a great white cloud. Peter Sam shot forward. He bashed his flatbed so hard they burst through the buffers, smashed through the oil drums stacked on the wharf, and splashed into the canal. Right under the hopper. Percy was covered in coal from funnel to footplate. "Watch out, silly Billy," Percy peeped straight into a barrier. Parcels flew everywhere. Henrietta biffed into it. All the cakes fell onto the floor, but it was too late. Toby splashed through the puddle. Henrietta was covered from bumper to buffer in dark brown mud. Buffers. The fish shot into the air. "Oh no! Oh no!" cried Rosie. Then there was trouble. Thomas bumped into Bert, and the stinky cheese shot into the air and splattered down all over Thomas, Bert, and Harry. They crashed through a snowbank. Suddenly, she backfired. The mud sprayed all over Rheneas and Skarloey. The bicycle toppled off the flatbed and crashed to the ground. He hit the buffers, and the billboard flew into the lake. The ropes broke. The magnificent water wheel rolled off Edward's flatbed. It smashed against the gate. Coconuts rolled everywhere. Stepney was covered in pink sugar from funnel to footplate. It bashed into Emily. Seats from the big wheel clattered and clanged all over the tracks. The cream churns crashed. The junction was blocked. Emily steamed around the final bend and straight into a big puddle of mud. The track started to sink. Emily was stuck. Duck puffed quickly forward. The water tower crashed to the ground. It burst on the sharp point. The balloon tumbled down. The train smashed into the snow. And it stuck. Thomas bashed straight into Diesel. Stone poured down from the hopper. And biffed into Mavis, who came off the rails. Oh, rattling rods. Woo! They raced backwards towards Harry and Bert. With a crash and a bang, Thomas and Diesel smashed Harry and Bert right through the back of the engine sheds. Stones and timber flew everywhere. Gordon biffed straight into them. The logs started to roll down the hill, bounced off his flatbed. He hit the buffers with a big bump. More of the special blocks bounced off his flatbed. With a clang and a crash, Thomas clanked off the rails. His flatbed bashed his buffers with a bump. The last of the special blocks fell from his flatbed. It was too late. Skarloey crashed into Duncan's cars. Bunting flew into the air. It fell all over Skarloey. Skarloey bashed into Rusty's cars. Ice cream flew into the air and spattered all over the engines. He steamed into a siding. Skarloey bashed through the buffers. And with a splash, a sploosh, and a splosh, Skarloey plunged into Percival Pond. Then it cracked.
Oh, no.
The car skidded and skated right into a muddy ditch. Sir Topham Hatt's car skidded and skated right into a haystack. Sir Topham Hatt's car skidded and skated right into a pond.
Mavis hadn't lined up her freight cars under the hopper. Slate spilled everywhere. Cranky dropped the crates. The freight cars bounced high in the air. They crashed and bashed. They clattered and shattered down to the tracks.
Oh no!
Rocky dropped his heavy load of slate.
But she did hear the loud crash.
Fizzling fireboxes! What was that?
Edward had crashed straight into the flatbed of flowers, but she did hear the loud crash.
Bubbling boilers! What was that?
Cinders and ashes!
Bust my buffers!
Kevin reeled and rolled back towards the hoist, and with a biff and a bash, he hit a big green button. That made Spencer shudder into the air.
Trembling tracks, what's happening?
Then Kevin dropped Henry's coal right in front of Henry's nose into James.
Mind my shiny red paintwork!
He blew the biggest puff of steam he had ever blown, all over Victor.
Here I come, Emily!
Muddy rainwater had splooshed all over Emily, and all over Emily's flower cars.
Here I come, James! Splash! Splash! Swoosh!
And Thomas steamed away laughing. Muddy rainwater had splooshed all over James, and all over the ripe strawberries on his flatbed.
Here I come! Splish! Splash! Splash!
Then there was trouble. Muddy water flew high into the air and splooshed down all over Alicia Botti and Sir Topham Hatt. Slushy snow sprayed from his wheels. Spencer was covered from footplate to fender.
Rattle my rods! I'm as dirty as a ditch!
Gordon rattled off the main track and into a siding, straight into the back of some slate cars. Gordon saw Thomas and his car of firewood lifted high in the air and derailed. Emily pulled so hard that the coupling broke. The apple car tumbled off the tracks. Apples bounced and rolled everywhere. His wheels whirred, and he bumped into the buffers. Luckily, no one was hurt. Straight into the two freight cars James and Thomas had shunted, out of the Whistling Woods. Straight into the four freight cars James and Thomas had shunted, out of the woods. Straight into the 6 freight cars Thomas and James had shunted. Straight into an old freight car. A popping cork hit Mr. Bubbles. It knocked his big red nose off. Popping corks hit the bakers and the cakes. Then there was trouble. The popping corks hit the signalman. He was so surprised, he pulled the wrong lever. The tracks changed. James was sent into a siding. James bumped the buffers. Luckily, no one was hurt. Suddenly, the very last cork popped and knocked Sir Topham Hatt's hat right off his head. Then there was trouble. Black smoke and soot shot from Gordon's valves all over Sir Topham Hatt, who had just arrived in his bright blue car.
Heaving hooks!
Yes, you are, my friend.
Push!
The coal cars bashed and biffed together. He bashed the buffers and toppled off the tracks. At last, Thomas screeched to a stop. The Star of Knapford flew high into the sky. It floated and flickered right over James and Henry and Percy. Then crashed with a crunch and a crack.
Suddenly, old Wheezy grabbed and groaned and whirled and hurled.
Logs everywhere. Logs bounced off Edward.
blistering boilers!
and flew past Thomas.
Cinders and ashes!
But Hee-Haw had run out of oil. It spluttered and stuttered. Thick, black smoke all over James and Sir Topham Hatt. Then there was trouble. Old Wheezy and Hee-Haw started to cough and to splutter. Then they jittered and juddered. Baubles and bells bounced and bumped. Streamers and stars shuddered and shook. Then Old Wheezy rocked and rolled, and the Joby Log Christmas tree flew high in the sky and splashed into the pond. Gordon hit a bump in the track. The flathead jumped, and with a splash and a crash, the Lion of Sodor tipped and toppled into the muddy marsh.
Nearly there, Gordon!
Gordon shuddered and juddered. Gordon's driving wheels fell off the track.
Bother! Nearly there, Gordon!
Then there was trouble. The track creaked and crumbled. Then it cracked.
Bother!
Gordon groaned.
Oh, the indignity.
Rescue engine to the ready!
James roared and raced down the track. He hit Gordon's buffer with a biff and a bash and a terrible smash. Gordon the Grand had toppled off the track into the muddy fen, and James the rescue engine had splished and sploshed into the mud after him. It puffed and it huffed the balloon up in the air and away. Screeched to a stop.
Trembling tracks!
The big balloon bounced from the flatbed, high into the sky. Then it fizzed and it whizzed, darting this way and that as it shrank smaller and smaller.
My hat!
My hat!
My hat!
Sorry, Victor.
Thomas raced in reverse, right into Charlie. Dropped the Christmas tree crate right in front of Kevin. Kevin bashed and crashed into the crate. It jiggled and joggled. And Bertie the bus rolled off, started to bash and crash his magnet too hard against the poles. With a crack and a splash and a sploosh and a whoosh, he tipped and he tapped so hard against the wheel, it rolled and raced away. It crashed and bashed into Rocky with a clang and a prang. His marvelous magnet was now working. With a bang and a clang, Kevin bumped into the flatbed with a clang and a bang.
Biff, bash, bosh!
Kevin biffed the oil drum. It skidded into Spencer. An oil drum whizzed and whirled towards Vicky and covered him in gloopy goo.
I'll chuff back soon, Percy.
Snow splattered and scattered all over Percy.
I only have one job left, Percy. I'll leash back soon.
Once again, snow splattered and scattered all over Percy. A whistle wheeshed loudly that made Thomas jump, and he heard their trees fall with a terrible thump.
Stop, Gordon!
Thomas reversed. With a crunch, he rolled over his tree. Diesel reversed. With a scrunch, he rolled over his tree. Straight into Rocky. Rocky was surprised. He dropped an oil drum right onto Edward's coal sacks. A magnet dropped onto Toby's poles. And straight into a heap of coal.
Flatten my funnel.
Surprised, he hit the buffers, and his wheels bounced off the track. The photographer was so surprised he dropped his camera. He crashed and he bashed straight into the back of Whiff's garbage train. The garbage cars clattered and battered right off the rails. She biffed and bashed into the cars.
Trembling tracks!
And with a flap and a squawk, straight into Diesel's flatbed. Gordon's buffer was bent. Gordon hit the freight car with a smash and a bash. With a clang and a clatter, Gordon's buffer crashed onto the tracks. Suddenly, a big cloud of coal dust puffed out of the calliope. He rattled and raced down the hill. With a crash and a bash, it smashed off the track. Thomas stopped just in time.
My special tune!
Strangest thing happened. It shook and it shuddered. It wobbled and it wibbled, till it rolled to the ground and into the sea. Splash!
Thomas blew his whistle as loud as he could. Rosie was surprised. Her cars bumped and jumped into each other. Gordon didn't laugh, but Whiff was surprised. Whiff's cars bashed and crashed. Garbage flew everywhere. Frankie dropped the crates of fireworks, and with a crash and a bang, the crates broke open, and fireworks fizzed and whizzed everywhere.
Bust my buffers! I didn't want that to happen!
On the muddy, wet track, with a crash and a bash, Whiff smashed into him. With a crash and a bang.
I don't need help. I'll soon have this all cleared up. Oops. That's it, Cranky.
There was so much to do.
Look out! I can cope perfectly well on my... Oh!
Shiver me axles! There be chickens!
There were chickens here, chickens there, chickens running everywhere.
Don't worry, boss! I've got it!
Midge dropped from the crane. Scruff was covered in horrible, stinky, mucky mess.
Express coming through!
A big stone flew out of one of Paxton's cars. Didn't see that the drawbridge had gone back up. His driver and fireman had to jump clear. Then there was trouble.
Pumpkin's on the line!
Was getting near when... But the snow was getting thicker and thicker.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
Don't take me away from the sea owl!
Salty was in such a hurry. Salty smashed into...
Way anchor, laddie!
Buffers at the end of the track. The barrels of strawberry, raspberry, and even apricot jam flew into the air, then smashed to the ground. His hook to the milk truck. The milk poured out. Hero stopped so suddenly that 3 big barrels of cream flew into the air.
Not again.
And splattered all over Sir Topham Hatt and Edward and Hero. Thomas had hit a rotten buffer in the undergrowth. Then there was trouble. Emily took a turn too fast. The pipes came loose and rolled off the flatbeds.
Nothing slows me down. Oh!
What was that? What was what? I knocked something over!
Glad to be of service. The last coach couldn't stop and bumped into the back of the other slip.
Stop! It must be an emergency! Bouncing boulders! Look out! Fall!
The entrance to the old mine had only recently been reboarded up.
Thomas, what are you doing? Coaches don't need code. Gator, wait!
Watch out, Percy! I'll stop it!
I got it!
Come here, you! Oh no!
Then there was trouble.
Shiver me axles!
Oops, sorry! Whoops!
No!
Oops!
Great fun! Oh!
Hello, Diesel! How are you today?
Then there was trouble.
Oh no!
There was trouble.
Whoa! Over here!
Have to hurry, have to hurry! Oops!
Hero! Oh!
You're too slow to be really useful.
there was more trouble.
Here you go, lads.
And then there was trouble.
Ow.
Those cars into the sea, were you?
I can't tell it's you. Perfect.
Oh no! Look out!
Rocky! I can't stop! Help!
Hey, what's wrong?
Oh, do be quiet.
We'll give you quiet.
And then they let their brakes slip off again.
Wow! Watch out!
I'm just having a quick wash before I start work. What?
Thomas couldn't stop.
Percy!
Thomas?
Look out! Look out!
Percy! Look out!
Did he? Did who? Then stop pulling! I'm no pulling! You are! Hey!
The big, strong coupling between Douglas and his tender was broken.
Oh! Bear it in mind from now on! My jobs are special, Cranky. Even this one. Never mind, Cranky. It's only sticky if it gets wet. No!
Maybe I should have sprayed those bumpy tracks.
Look out!
Mike got so cross and he whistled so hard that his whistle cap flew right off like a rocket.
Stop! Stop!
the rivers. And some of the lines were flooded.
Huh?
I don't understand.
Have you tried turning it off and on again, sir?
Then there was trouble.
Let's try this one.
Where's the rattlers?
Woohoo! Full speed ahead!
Freight overboard! It's all right, I've got it! No problem, everything's fine! Be careful! Watch out!
Then there was trouble.
They won't stop me. Cinders and ashes. I'm stuck. The ice is cracking.
Don't worry, I'm almost at the other... Almost there! I have an important announcement for all of you.
I'm slowing down! Hello, sir.
Cool!
Look out, Edward! Oh,
Back up! Back up!
Stop!
Huh?
Sorry about that.
Stop, Billy!
My tank! My sardines!
I fell in the water.
There was trouble.
looking where you were going.
Look out!
Fireworks! Fireworks!
Excuse me, what are you playing at? This isn't a shunting yard.
Thanks, Rebecca! I can't stop! Yahoo! No!
Oh no!
Rosie!
Going too fast! Oh
Oh.
And pushed you into some tar tankers.
careful there, James! Becca, be careful!
Huh? Not again. Whoa!
¡Oh, indignidade!
Oops. Ugh. Dear Thomas. Whoa!
Whoops! Oh no! Salty! Look out! Ow! Shiver me cylinders! I'm going overboard! Farewell, me hearty!
Can't do everything on my own.
Whoa! What's that? Whoa! What's going on? Oh no! Oh, I don't get it!
I'm supposed to.
Oopsie.
Harley! Look out!
Phew! I thought I was gonna go right over! Pull me back up, Cranky! password.
Slow down!
I feel a bit strange. I think I might be
Magnetic!
Ooh!
Points!
Oh no! My other banner!
What's the matter, Thomas? Oh! My hat! Oh! My suit! Oh!
Now I can enjoy a good...
At least my hat is still in one piece.